Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here with Vicky and I. We are so excited to be talking about this important topic of introverts and their skills enabling organizations to be better, enabling teams to function at a higher rate, to enable, you know, just a different type of perspective in an organization. You don't necessarily have to be an extrovert to succeed or to be a leader. And Vicky and I are here to tell you that. So if you are more introverted and still want to succeed in the workplace and advance, you can use your introversion as a strength. So we're so excited to be talking about this. Vicky, thank you so much for being here with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Lori, for asking me and inviting me to be here. And thank you for everybody who's watching, whether you're live or watching the replay. So I am a certified coach. I work exclusively with introverts. I do that because I'm a hardcore introvert myself. I spent 23 years in corporate. I was the manager of international teams. So I know how hard it can feel to be an introvert in not just the work world, but just in our world in general, to be heard and seen and not feel like you have to put on this show of being an extrovert in order to be seen, heard, respected, valued, all that kind of fun stuff. So, yeah, I work with introverts to help them to really learn what it means to be introverted because I think there's just a collective misunderstanding about what it means.
Mm.
And once you understand it, then you can start to do the work to really embody it and understand your strengths and leverage those strengths.
Yes, absolutely. See, understanding yourself and having that self-awareness can really enable us to know how to adjust our behavior to feel comfortable in situations where we might not normally. So, love the work that you are doing and the coaching that you offer your clients. It's so needed and such an important niche.
Yes.
So, let's talk a little bit about what it means to be authentic as an introvert. We don't have to fake it till you make it. I feel like that is not, I feel like it is the worst advice ever. um, just, it's about upskilling, right? Like learning skills to present yourself in the way that you intend while being true to who you are.
Yeah.
So, fake it till you make it is not what we are promoting here. Not at all. So tell us a little bit about your approach.
Yeah. So my opinion on fake it till you make, I agree. It's the worst advice ever. I feel like fake it till you make it is just perpetuating imposter syndrome because you're constantly putting yourself out there as something that you're not. And how can you feel confident in being yourself if you're pretending to be something that you're not? I mean, because that's essentially telling yourself, well, who I am is not good enough. And my approach is not good enough. So I have to pretend to be something that I'm not. And the problem with that is all the things that you bring to the table as an introvert you are dismissing and disconnecting with when you're saying, I've got to fake it as something that I'm not. And that is just so not helpful. So I love to work with clients. And when I talk about being authentic as an introvert, it's exactly that. It's not faking it as an extrovert, not putting that armor on or that fake extrovert mask on and pushing yourself to be something that you're not. It's really again going back to understanding what your strengths are so that you can leverage them and you can lean into those instead of away from them.
Yes. Hi, Brenda Lees. Thanks for being here. So excited to see other comments. And if you have any questions for us as we go through, please feel free to pop them in the comments. Okay, so yeah, so often we're taught that to be a leader or to be accomplished in some sort of way, we have to be an extrovert, right? We see celebrities who, get on stage in front of millions of people and speakers who, have to have lots of energy. There's, networking that can be really draining. I am an ambivert personally, and that's like the middle of being an introvert and extrovert. Like I gain a lot of energy from being around people, but I also need my alone time to recoup, like to re-energize myself in a different way. So, having that time for rejuvenation can make a big difference. So, I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily know what that word is. Like it's like either this extreme or this extreme. And I found like the more that I've talked to people and be like, well, it sounds like you might actually be like somewhere in the middle. Like you really like socializing, like you do game nights, or you go out with friends and you really enjoy that. And then sometimes you get really tired and you just need, to do some chill stuff and be alone. So thinking a little bit more about, your needs and where you get your energy from can enable you to know better what it is that you can label yourself as. So that label will enable you to understand yourself better.
Yeah.
Because labels can be empowering and sometimes they can be disabling.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's through our like the conditioning that we've received from society that tells us a lot of
Mhm.
people think introvert means shy, awkward, not good at talking, not good with talking with people,
Right.
don't like people. And so when you think, oh, I'm an introvert, it's like, oh, well, that's no good. But if you flip that and you understand the gifts around it and how much the world needs that, then you can just change your perspective and the label becomes helpful, not a hindrance.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, what are some strengths of an introvert that sometimes people see as a weakness, or sometimes um, as an introvert themselves,
Mhm.
or for yourself, what have you seen as a weakness that you've learned is actually can be used as a strength?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, first off, just to just explain some of the strengths that I see in introverts, and then I can give into give some specifics on reframing what some of this may sound like, just to really um, empower you to think differently about it. So introverts are really, really great at deep thinking, analysis, problem solving, and this all ties into biologically, we are a little bit different. Introverts and extroverts are a little bit different. I actually talked about this last week on my live, so you can check that out. But there's a recording in my featured section. But we have in our prefrontal cortex of our brain, which is right up here in the front, that is where we do our processing, decision making, analysis. We have thicker gray matter in that part of our brain, and then the gray matter is where we do the processing. So we are wired to do all of that thinking. Now it can lead a little into overthinking, but that's a topic for a different day. But we do a lot of thinking. We are able to take in a lot of information and go deep with it and start to connect the dots.
Mhm.
So when introverts are like, but I'm too quiet. I need to speak up more in meetings. I need to talk more. I need to like be adding things in all the time, like all the extroverts. Well, if you're pressuring yourself to do that, you're not letting yourself tap into that strength of listening, taking in all of that information, connecting the dots, so that when you do feel like contributing something, it's at a much deeper level and probably at a level that you're going to be sharing something that nobody else is really sharing because everybody else is just trying to talk to be heard. And
Mhm.
so reframing that idea of I'm too quiet into no, I'm processing because I got a lot of stuff going on up here. And that's what allows me to really provide a lot of value.
Yeah. I was just on a podcast today talking about how, excuse me, listening is the most important communication skill,
Mhm.
but it's not talked about enough,
Yes.
because it's the absence of something
Yeah.
frequently.
Yep.
So you don't think about it as a communication skill because so often we're like, it's, our tone, it's the words we say, it's our body language or hand gestures. But listening and seeking to understand people and processing everything to then make informed decisions,
Mhm.
that's a great strength.
Yeah.
Listening listening is not done enough and it's not frequently done effectively enough.
Yeah.
So that is such a great point. Listening, absorbing information, absorbing what people are saying and learning from them. Yeah. So valuable and it's not discussed enough. So that's one of the top strengths I see of introverts.
And yeah, and from a leadership perspective, if you think about, I mean, I'm sure everybody in corporate has been managed by people who you feel like never listen to you. So introverts as leaders provide that extra level of allowing people who report to them to really feel seen and heard and valued and respected, which is huge when it comes to building trust with your team that you're managing.
Right. Absolutely. Um, when you feel understood, then you're more likely to be vulnerable and take a little bit more risk
Mhm.
to, make our goals happen, right? We have to get out of our comfort zone in order to make progress.
Yeah.
And that applies in business and that applies in our personal lives.
Mhm.
So if a leader is able to help people feel more comfortable in the workplace,
Yeah.
then they're going to be more willing to get out of their comfort zone and grow, not just personally, but as a benefit for the business too.
Yeah. Yeah, and one other strength when I think about leadership, introverts as leaders, introverts typically don't love to call the spotlight on ourselves. Like we're not like looking to seek and get all the attention. So when it comes to leading a team, introverts want to share that spotlight, which again is really, really awesome for those that are on the team and that have done the work that
Yeah.
they're going to share in that recognition. And
Step
because
step forward, right,
yeah,
to solve a problem, but also being willing to step back to let other people lead too.
yeah, exactly.
Yes. Liz Wiseman, who's one of my favorite authors, she's an executive advisor and New York Times bestselling author. And she talks about the people who make an impact on the organization rather than someone who's a contributor. And one of those qualities is if like they're an individual contributor or they're a leader, they're able to step forward when leadership needs to happen, but not have it always be about them, right?
Yes.
Also be willing to step back and recognize that this person is going to enable our team at this point to succeed. I'm going to listen, I'm going to seek to understand, I'm going to let them go forward with this conversation and lead the conversation, etc. So it's so important to be able to do that and not have it be all about you and you always need to be the one in charge.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're taught, and we've talked about this, and I talk about this a lot, that if we want to be a certain thing, then we need to do XYZ. Like we're taught those types of things during childhood. But so often those are very limiting and they're just based on what our parents or family of origin or society has said. You have this label, so this is what you're able to do. This is how you function. There are basically limitations, right?
Yeah.
You're in this box that society has said this is your box.
Mhm.
So how do people get out of that box
Yeah.
that has been placed upon them,
Yeah.
really,
Mhm.
that's caused them to have limiting beliefs
Yeah.
and actions that are disabling them from succeeding and progressing?
Yeah, that's a tough one because it's like you said, it's been told to us, taught to us from the time we were tiny. And
Mhm.
so we have believed it for so long that we don't even like it's like saying, I'm looking out my window, trees have leaves. Like we don't even question that. Of course, trees have leaves, but they don't in the winter, right? So that's not always true. So, but we just take it verbatim that these things that we have been told and these things that we have just believed for so long that they're just true. So the first step is to challenge all those beliefs. So I like to tell my clients, like first of all, a lot of clients come in and say, I just want to learn how to like accept my limitations. And I get that. I get that's the approach that they want. But I'm like, yeah, no, we're not here to do that. We're not here to accept limitations. We're here to reframe those so that you see them as strengths and that you are not limited. And that's when
Yeah.
I get really excited. And so the first step is to really pay attention to all of those things that you tell yourself, I can't do that. I'm not going to be good at that. Or even that's going to be hard for me because I'm an introvert. And challenge all of it. Like
Mhm.
just tell yourself what, or ask yourself, what if that wasn't true? And that may feel wildly uncomfortable
Yes.
initially,
Oh, love that.
because you
Yes.
never asked yourself if that's not true. And your brain is going to jump in and say, well, you know what? Let me pull out the archives and tell you all of these exact incidents on why this is true, because it's going to provide all of this evidence to support what you've been telling yourself. But you can just throw that out and say, okay, brain, will start to show me new evidence of why that isn't true.
Mhm.
Start to go like again, it's going to feel very uncomfortable to do that, and it may even feel impossible. But once you start to go down that path, you can start to really rewire your brain. And it's
Mm.
really again getting clear on what your strengths are, what you bring to the table, really starting to understand what it means to be an introvert and not judging yourself for it, and then getting creative. Like, well, what's a different way that I could do this that works for me? Like networking. That's one that all of us introverts generally are like, that is the worst thing ever. I hate walking into a room full of people that I don't know. And I
Mhm.
used to avoid it at all costs. I remember sitting outside of an event like 5 or 6 years ago, literally shaking and like making myself go in. But
Oh.
Yeah, and so, but I did, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But I now
Mhm.
that's where I love, in-person networking events, and it's because I don't go in with this expectation of I've got to work the room, I've got to talk to everybody, I have to do all these like extroverted things. I'm like, I'm really good at having one-on-one conversations, like deeper conversations with people. So my goal is usually have 2 or 3 meaningful conversations. That's a really successful event for me. And you know what? That's where the connections are made, are in the meaningful conversations, not jumping around talking to everybody like, oh,
Building authentic, meaningful rapport.
yeah,
100%. Yeah, yeah. Um, yes, Charmaine, introverts should be celebrated 100%. It's not just like getting on a stage that has to be celebrated. It can be so many things. And learning to celebrate
yeah,
that part of you. Because, like you said, like you need to speak up or at a meeting, like just so many things that people that introverts are told, excuse me, that just aren't. It's like always feedback. It's like it feels like it's so frequently feedback that's like negative so
yeah,
often.
yeah,
And it just, yeah, knowing that these things can be strengths and celebrating that part of you,
yeah,
that can really rewire your brain too. Like, this is a great part of who I am.
absolutely.
So when your brain goes into a certain mode, questioning that,
Hmm.
um, and like because our brain synapses fire down the path most frequently traveled. So even if that path doesn't serve us
Hmm.
and help us progress, it's still going to have us do it because it's familiar.
Yeah,
Even if someone's going to hurt us,
yeah,
even if people are, it's not going to be a healthy environment or the actions are going to limit us, it's
hmm,
familiar and that's it.
yeah,
Your brain knows it's familiar, so it's safe.
yeah,
But safe doesn't always enable us to progress.
yeah,
So being able to say like, oh, and sometimes separating like, oh, my brain is doing this thing,
hmm,
not me,
yeah,
like separating those two things.
hmm,
Because for me, like with my mood disorder, I'm like, I had a great day. I signed clients, got paid,
hmm,
had great discovery calls, strategy calls, I was on a podcast, but like if I start feeling depressed, it's like that's not reality. Like what's really happening like is completely different than what my brain like is focusing on right now. So
yeah,
that's really helped me
hmm,
to change how my brain synapses are firing. Like it's not the same, sometimes it's not the same thing as what's actually happening.
yeah,
So questioning that and like separating your sometimes your thought process
mhm,
or what your brain automatically tells you
yeah,
can just transform your life. I've also found that having a tribe of people who support you as you are in your authentic self,
hmm,
it just builds your confidence so rapidly.
yeah,
Once I started doing that,
hmm,
it catapulted my business and my relationships and my confidence.
yeah,
So if you are struggling with confidence, then having a tribe around you who loves you for who you are and
hmm,
thinks you're absolutely freaking awesome because you are,
yeah,
instead of surrounding yourself with people who are constantly, telling you you need to change,
yeah,
it just really helps, especially when you go into those situations where people are telling you, oh, we need to change, or the feedback is only improvement feedback,
hmm,
that you're able to, say, oh, but I'm still awesome. Like
yeah,
there's yes, I do need to improve in certain areas. There's, still a lot of strength that I have.
yeah,
Only being surrounded by feedback of improvement or
hmm,
criticism really kills confidence. And I grew up in that type of environment, so I know.
yeah,
So being able to have a
yeah,
tribe can
yeah,
make a big difference to your confidence. If you're looking for a way to drastically, quickly improve your confidence, that is one way.
yeah, yeah. And I love what you said about like, our brain is going to tell us all these things. So we don't have our all of our thoughts are not true. And so if we can say, I choose not to believe that, then we can go down a different path. And I
Yeah.
feel like for introverts, we're talking about like, it's comfortable. So that's like our comfort zone. And I feel like for introverts, what's so challenging about getting out of our comfort zone is that For us to get out of our comfort zone, I feel like everything outside of our comfort zone for most introverts is like the extrovert zone. So not only are we having the discomfort of doing something that we're not familiar with, but we're adding on the layer of discomfort of having to do it as an extrovert, which makes it even
Mhm.
harder. Which is why when you learn your strengths and you feel really confident in just being an introvert, you're still gonna have to get out of your comfort zone. But now you're doing it in what I call like aligned discomfort. So it's aligned to your nature and your strengths, not getting out of my comfort zone plus having to pretend to be something I'm not. So it just
Mhm.
changes the whole game of like getting uncomfortable and getting out of your comfort zone.
Mhm. So Priscilla's asking, how can an introvert's voice be heard in a room full of loud extroverts?
It's a great question. And, I think it's just standing really firm and knowing that when you're contributing, you know that you're contributing something of value. And, sometimes if I'm in a room with a lot of loud extroverts, I'll literally just raise my hand. Like if I can't butt in, then I'll just raise my hand. I'll go old school, like 8 years old in third grade and just like, hey, can I say something?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Or like this, like wait for a second, that cue of this and just like lean forward, like I'm ready, like hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those nonverbal cues can be really powerful, even in a remote setting.
Yeah.
People will see your hand and they know what that means. It means I have something to say. So it's totally okay to do that. It might be a less traditional way of doing it in business, but yeah, you have to adapt. So it's a great example.
I have to do that in my family sometimes. Even when I was a kid, everybody would be talking around the dinner table. I'm like, can I just get a word in?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So one of the notes that we have is about preparation being key
Mhm.
and like preparing talking points ahead of time. Talk to me about in your perspective, because I have a I'm sure I have a particular process different from you,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to public speaking coaching in preparation. So for specifically introverts, what do you do to help them prepare?
Yeah, I mean, preparation is key for introverts because we have all that thinking that goes on and we need to process, we're internal processors. We're not always the best at like being able to think on our feet, right? So we have
Mhm.
to prepare ahead of time, just so that we have at least some thoughts down so that we're not coming in like deer in headlights, what in the world is going to happen? Because
Mhm.
one of the key things behind why introverts need to prepare so much, not even for speaking things, but even for events, parties, anything, is it's really down to trying to protect our energy. We don't know going into any sort of event, we don't know how much energy is that going to take from us. Is it going to be a lot of people that a lot of things are going to, it's going to drain us a lot, or is it going to not drain us too much? Are we going to get asked a lot of things? So, in addition to like preparing talking points, it's really important when it comes to preparation to get context. So, if it's an event or a party and you're overthinking it and like really starting to anticipate it and feel really nervous about it, just ask how many people are going to be there, because that can help. It's like, oh, 5 versus 50, that's a different level of energetic preparation. If
Right.
a meeting or something like that, well, what's going to be expected of me? If it's going to
Yeah.
be something where you're talking, what do I need to prepare? So just get that context, and that will help with being able to not only prepare what you need to have ready, but also it's just going to help from like an energetic perspective on what you feel like may be draining you or not draining you.
Yeah. My husband's family, they're very much like doers and very loud and energetic. And being sometimes in that environment, it can be really draining. Like, oh, there's so much noise, and I have PTSD.
Mm,
So it's very like loud noises are triggering.
mhm.
Um, so kind of anticipating that, okay, I know this is going to drain my energy. It's all right to go into a different room and like take a break for a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Like, and honestly, there's so much energy going on, they probably won't even notice.
It's like the
And if
drop.
they do ask me, like, oh, I just needed a break, I'm fine. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal.
uh,
Totally okay to take a break.
Absolutely. There's many times I pop into the bathroom. I don't need to use the restroom. I just need to like,
Somewhere a little quieter where I can be alone
yeah,
and do some breathing.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so I have tips about like how to feel confident on the outside while feeling if you don't feel confident on the inside at first. So we're talking about preparations. One of the things that I do is teaching clients visualization and power posing.
Mhm.
So visualizing the situation going well. So this is really helpful when public speaking, but if you're going to a networking event or a party, you can do the same thing. Like, oh, people are going to laugh at my jokes. People are going to, want to talk to me. They're going to, whether you want them to approach you or you approach them, but then they're interested in talking to me, and we develop relationships and have meaningful conversations. um, so visualizing all of that happening creates an energy in yourself to actually make that happen. And then the other thing is power posing. So that's things like this, like I won,
Mhm.
or like this, like I'm in charge. Those types of poses
Mhm.
trigger your brain into believing that you are powerful and you're going to win.
Mhm.
So I don't believe in fake it till you make it. This is a skill that you can do to
Mhm.
actually enable your brain to manifest what it is that you want,
Yeah.
because your brain knows all those times that you've seen someone go like this after winning a race
Yeah.
or at the Olympics or something like that. That means I just won. I'm freaking amazing. I worked hard for it, all of those things.
Mhm.
So, no faking it till you make it. Do these things that help your brain operate in a way to serve you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a couple more minutes. Anything else that you want to share that we haven't talked about that you feel would be really helpful for introverts or people who are trying to ensure that they're included?
Oh, I think we covered a lot of it. I think one thing to add to what I do in addition to like the power poses before events is I have like a couple of theme songs that really like fire me up. So I will play whether it's before going on live, for something if I'm really nervous about it, or if I am driving to something now where I'm nervous, I will play. I have like a little playlist with a couple songs in it, and those songs just like really get me in my like I got this. So that may
Yes.
be an
I
option.
have I have a hype playlist that I like to listen to before speaking engagements, like High Hopes by Panic at the Disco, and a couple others I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah, the music creates that energy for yourself that you want to portray. So it helps you to manifest it in that next situation that you'll be in.
Yeah, and
So
you can imagine like play it in your head as you're walking in, so you're like still carrying it with you. That's what I like to do.
yeah, I love that. I love that. My husband and I always like to play music whenever we have people over, just to create like the energy that we want.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that can make a big difference in the type of like energy and spirit of the situation.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would love to invite anyone to connect with Vicky or I
Mhm.
if you are interested in improving your communication, in it being able to put yourself out there in situations that might naturally be scary for you, to build your confidence so you can achieve what it is that you want to do. Vicky, is there
Mhm.
anything else you want to share with our audience?
If
Call to
anybody,
action.
yeah, I mean, if anybody is in this new phase of like, oh, I just kind of recently figured out I'm an introvert, and you don't really fully understand what it is, or you feel like it's something that is holding you back, you're at a disadvantage, definitely connect with me, follow me. I do a live on LinkedIn every Thursday, so I'm going to do one tonight to this at later today at 5:30, where I'm talking about. I mean, I'm really passionate about introvert stuff, so I'm talking about all the introvert stuff every single week to help you better understand yourself and feel more confident in being an introvert. So come follow me, sign up for those, and yeah, you can watch those and learn all about it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vicky, for doing this with me. And yes, follow me as well for tips on confidence, job searching, advancing your career, ensuring you are getting the boss that you want that will enable you to succeed in the workplace based on your personality and other factors. Thank you again, Vicky, for doing this with me. And thank you for everyone who attended. We really appreciated your comments. And feel free to add in the comments later or DM either of us with any questions. Have a great day, everyone.